December 2020. At FireEye, one of the world's most elite cybersecurity firms, the engineers are known as the Hunters. They are the digital bloodhounds that corporations and governments call when they suspect a breach. But on this day, the Hunters became the hunted. The security alarms at FireEye itself were screaming. Someone was inside their network. This wasn't a smash-and-grab attack. This was the work of a ghost. The intruders moved silently, with godlike precision, and they were stealing FireEye's most valuable asset, their red team tools, the very hacking weapons FireEye used to test their clients' defenses. As the FireEye team investigated the breach, they found the digital footprints leading back to an entry point they couldn't believe. It wasn't a phishing email. It wasn't a weak password. The attackers had come in through the front door. They had entered using a legitimate, digitally signed software update from a trusted partner, a company called SolarWinds. What FireEye didn't know yet was that they had just pulled the thread on the single most devastating, sophisticated, and widespread cyber espionage campaign in modern history. This wasn't just a hack. It was a hostile intelligence operation that had already compromised the heart of the United States government. And for 9 months, no one knew. This is the story of the billion-dollar breach.
To understand the genius of this attack, you first have to understand the target, not the U.S. government, the vector, SolarWinds. If you've never heard of SolarWinds, you're not alone, but in the world of IT, they are a giant. The company builds a powerful software platform called Orion. Think of Orion as the ultimate God view for a network administrator. It's a single dashboard that monitors everything: servers, workstations, printers, routers. It tells you what's healthy, what's down, and what's connected. To do this, Orion needs the highest level of trust and the highest level of privilege. It needs the keys to the kingdom, with administrative access to every device it touches. And everyone used it. From Fortune 500 companies like Microsoft and Intel to the most sensitive branches of the U.S. government, the Pentagon, the Department of Homeland Security, the State Department, the National Institutes of Health, even parts of the National Security Agency. 18,000 organizations, all running a piece of software they implicitly trusted. And that trust was the weapon. This attack wasn't about breaking down the door to the Pentagon. Why bother when you can simply walk in disguised as the trusted delivery driver? This is a supply chain attack, and it is the modern-day equivalent of poisoning the town's water supply. So who had the patience, the resources, and the audacity to pull this off? This was not the work of petty criminals in a basement. All evidence pointed to one of the most formidable state-sponsored hacking groups on Earth, APT-29, more famously known as Cozy Bear. Cozy Bear is the elite cyber espionage unit of Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, the SVR. They are spies, not vandals. They don't smash systems for ransom. They don't wipe data. Their mission is long-term intelligence, to sit inside an enemy's network, undetected for as long as possible, to read their mail, to understand their secrets. They were the same group that breached the White House and the State Department years earlier. But SolarWinds was their masterpiece. The operation was so complex, investigators had to break it down into stages, giving each a cinematic code name. It began not with a bang, but with a whisper. Sometime in 2019, the SVR breached SolarWinds' own internal network. The exact method is debated, but some reports point to a laughably simple failure: a public SolarWinds server with a password of SolarWinds 123. But once inside, the hackers did nothing. For months, they just watched. They studied the company's software development process. They learned how SolarWinds built and compiled the Orion software. They were looking for a weak point, a single moment of opportunity. And they found it. They created their first piece of malware, a tiny surgical tool codenamed Sunspot. Sunspot was a marvel of malicious engineering. Its only job was to live inside the SolarWinds build server and wait. It monitored the system 24/7, looking for the specific moment the Orion software was about to be compiled, the process that bundles all the source code into the final usable product. When that moment came, Sunspot executed a lightning-fast maneuver. In less than a second, it would quickly and temporarily replace a single, legitimate SolarWinds source code file with a malicious file of its own. This malicious file was the real weapon. Codename Sunburst. Sunburst was then compiled, bundled, and, most importantly, digitally signed with a legitimate SolarWinds security certificate. To any security scanner, to any antivirus, this malicious update looked like a perfectly normal, perfectly safe patch from SolarWinds. The hackers were now inside the software build chain. The poisoned update was complete. In March of 2020, SolarWinds, completely unaware, pushed this Trojan horse update to its 18,000 customers. The delivery driver had just handed the bomb to the world. But the Sunburst backdoor was unlike anything the world had ever seen. It was, by all accounts, paranoid. Once installed at a victim's site, say the Department of Justice, it did nothing. It entered a dormant phase, sleeping for 12 to 14 days. This was a brilliant anti-detection trick, designed to outweight any sandbox security tools that only monitor new software for a few minutes. After 2 weeks of silence, Sunburst would wake up. It performed a long checklist of security checks. Is there any antivirus software running on this machine? Is it part of a domain or just a researcher's test computer? It even checked for specific network drivers to ensure it wasn't in an artificial honeypot. If it suspected anything unusual, it would instantly deactivate, leaving no trace. But if the coast was clear, it would reach out to its command and control server. Even this was done with genius-level stealth. It disguised its network traffic to look like legitimate Orion activity. It communicated by hiding its data in what looked like normal, boring network performance pings. It was a ghost in the machine. And here is the most critical part. The SVR did not activate the backdoor on all 18,000 victims. That would be too noisy. They were patient. They were selective. They activated the backdoor only on the targets they deemed most valuable. This was digital espionage with a sniper's precision. Once a high-value target was confirmed, the Sunburst backdoor would drop its final payload, a second-stage malware codenamed Teardrop. Teardrop was the real toolkit. It allowed the SVR to move laterally across the victim's network, and their primary goal was to find the organization's identity server, the computer that creates and manages security tokens. They used this access to forge what's called a golden SAML token. This is the digital equivalent of a master skeleton key, one that never expires. It gave the hackers complete, ongoing, administrative-level access to everything. They could read any email, access any file, create new secret accounts, and they did. From Microsoft, they accessed internal source code. From the U.S. Treasury and Commerce Departments, they stole the emails of high-level officials. From the Department of Homeland Security, the very agency tasked with protecting America from cyber attacks, the SVR sat inside their networks, reading their communications. For 9 agonizing months, from March to December 2020, Russia's top spies had a free run of America's most sensitive networks, and the world was completely blind.
The entire house of cards only collapsed because the hackers got greedy. They used their golden SAML trick on FireEye, but FireEye's systems noticed something no one else had. An employee's computer was logging in while that employee was supposedly on vacation. It was a single tiny thread, but when FireEye pulled it, the entire conspiracy unraveled. On December 13, 2020, FireEye and then the U.S. government went public. The news sent a shockwave across the planet. Every federal agency, every Fortune 500 company scrambled to see if they had installed the poisoned update. The answer, for thousands, was yes. The scale was unimaginable. Microsoft's president, Brad Smith, called it the largest and most sophisticated attack the world has ever seen. It was a digital Pearl Harbor, an act of espionage that blurred the line with an act of war. The U.S. government, humiliated, responded with sanctions against Russia and the expulsion of diplomats, but the real damage was deeper. The SolarWinds hack shattered the fundamental trust at the heart of our digital world. We have to trust software updates. We are told to trust them. Our entire global infrastructure, our power grids, our banks, our hospitals, our militaries, is built on a complex, interconnected chain of software where every link is a potential point of failure. The SVR proved that this chain is terrifyingly brittle. They didn't just hack 18,000 companies, they hacked the very concept of trusted software. The cleanup took months and cost billions, but the question that haunts cybersecurity experts to this day is not what was stolen, it's what was left behind. Did the SVR leave other, deeper backdoors that we still haven't found? And, more terrifyingly, the SolarWinds operation is over. The Sunburst code has been found and neutralized, but the method, the playbook, is now known. How many other Sunburst-style attacks are hiding right now in the next software update you click? The silent war is already here. And in this war, the front line is everywhere.